never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues. Here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David and Gretchen will be talking about Wilson versus Cook County, the legal challenge of the Blair Holt assault weapon ban. Then we'll be taking a look at rioting in Milwaukee and why the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't really believe what they preach. Closer to home, Chicago Police Department Superintendent keeps avoiding any reference to Chicago's gang problem, despite a dramatically increasing number of violent crimes. And finally, California passes another stupid law, this time forbidding recording video of criminal activity. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio, so be sure to give us a call at 312-642-5600 or go to Facebook and like our page, On Target Radio, and ask a question there.
And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's time for David's Rant of the Week.
Contrary to what you may have heard, Wilson versus Cook County, the challenge to Cook County's Blair Holt assault weapons ban, is not dead. As an expert witness attached to the case and previously to Friedman versus Highland Park, I'll try to shed some light on the situation. Our attorney moved to voluntarily dismiss the case on July 28th, about a week before we were to go to court to set a trial date. The move allows us to refile within 1 year and pick up where we're left off, specifically meaning everything remains intact, including the long, voluminous discovery we went through with witnesses all over the country. The purpose for the voluntary dismissal was because the judge was pushing for a trial date prior to Thanksgiving, which was not in our best interest. The reason is because our attorney wants to wait for the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals en banc decision on Kolb versus Hogan. Kolb versus Hogan is a Second Amendment challenge to a 2013 Maryland statute that bans the sale of firearm magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, and that also bans many firearms by labeling them as assault weapons. At issue is the state's notion that magazines holding more than 10 rounds and so-called assault weapons are manufactured and sold for use by the military and law enforcement and not for John Q. Public. The plaintiff's position is magazines holding more than 10 rounds are common and standard, with over 75 million in circulation in the civilian population. Modern sporting rifles, such as the AR-15, are the most popular type of firearm available today for lawful citizen use for recreation, hunting, and personal protection. The crux of the matter is intermediate versus strict scrutiny. In Kolb versus Hogan, the lower court applied the wrong standard, namely a weak version of intermediate scrutiny. Strict scrutiny is the most stringent standard of judicial review. U.S. courts apply the strict scrutiny standard in two contexts. One is when a fundamental constitutional right is infringed, particularly those found in the Bill of Rights. The other situation is that the court has deemed a fundamental right protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, or when a government action applies to a specific suspect classification, such as race or national origin. To pass strict scrutiny, the law or policy must satisfy three tests. First, it must be justified by a compelling governmental interest which has never been clearly defined but generally refers to something necessary or crucial as opposed to something merely preferred. Second, the law or policy must be narrowly tailored to achieve that goal or interest. If it encompasses too much or fails to address essential aspects of the compelling interest, then the rule is not considered narrowly tailored. And third, the law or policy must be a least restrictive means for achieving that interest, meaning there must not be a less restrictive way to effectively achieve the compelling government interest. Intermediate scrutiny is the second level of deciding issues using judicial review and is less rigorous. Clearly, it's in our best interest for the court to rule in favor of strict scrutiny, and hence the reason why our attorney is taking a wait-and-see position. He looked at the unfavorable decisions in the Friedman, Shue, and Heller 2 cases and realized moving forward at this time would not be in our best interest. Conversely, the possibility of a favorable decision by the Fourth Circuit would be worth waiting for. If they decide to apply strict scrutiny to the Maryland ban, it gives us a stronger case to argue the point that strict scrutiny should be applied to the Cook County ban. And finally, there is also the simple reality that currently, with Scalia gone, SCOTUS isn't as friendly as it once was. So, Wilson versus Cook County isn't dead. It's biding its time, and we're crossing our fingers. And that, Gretchen, is my rant for the week.
Oh, I love it when you talk legal to me.
I wouldn't touch that line with a 10-foot pole.
Good.
Yeah.
Stay away.
I know I'd get in trouble. Yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing is interesting because as anyone who knows anything about firearms, at least any depth knowledge of firearms, they know that assault weapon is a made-up term to begin with. It's just, and it's flexible from where you go from one place to another. They go, well, that's an assault weapon.
Sure.
So this whole thing is, and the other biggest thing about this is they claim this is the weapon of choice, blah, blah, blah. The fact is that long guns, in general, just long guns, have an infinitesimally small percentage of the carnage that is being produced by different groups.
Criminals.
Currently. Yeah, criminals.
Yeah, very few criminals actually use AR-15 style rifles. It's so much easier to hide a handgun in your pants.
And I think they go after them because I think they see it, probably not rightfully so, but I think they see it as low-hanging fruit. To try and get handguns is going to be a really, really tough fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Although the Canadians did it, so.
They did, but, it's a different mindset. I mean, the Canadians like King George, I think. I'm not sure. This country does have a unique mindset about that. You're listening on Target Radio. This is AM560 The Answer. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. Weigh in on, the assault ban thing. Do you have one? You can call in and tell us if you have, like an AR-15. We just won't mention your name or anything. That's fair.
Now, see, I thought you were going to say, you started to say, I thought you were going to say it's because they're black.
And there's that. There's that too, yes.
I just bought one, and I was actually thinking of taking a paint marker and writing on the side, it's because I'm black, isn't it?
The problem is you wouldn't see it because it's black.
No, I'm not going to use a black marker. I'm going to use like a white marker or some color. Yeah, it's paint. It will.
I mean, you're literally going to paint a brand new gun?
Yeah, why not? It's my gun.
Don't we have a commercial come up or something so I can weep quietly here?
We have 2.5 minutes before you can be saved by the bell.
We got to bluff our way through 2.5 minutes.
I think we lost our feed.
We did. It's coming back up.
Okay.
I had a big feed. I don't know about you.
Yeah, we tied one on.
We did. No, that's a bad choice of words.
We tied on a feed bag.
That's what we tied on, yeah. We went and had Indian food.
Yes, we went to Gaylord Fine Indian Cuisine.
Yeah.
And they asked us about our show.
It's yeah, right. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of the fourth on this thing. They went to an en banc. The original 3-person review upheld. So then they requested an en banc. So there's 14 people who have. It's already been argued.
14 judges,
and they're just now they're
they're waiting.
Yeah, they're waiting to see how it's going to come out. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out. The thing is, and this sort of ties into Hillary. People keep saying, she gets elected, she will repeal the Second Amendment. She can't do that. It's not going to be a question of repealing the Second Amendment.
No.
But it will be a question of gutting the Second Amendment.
Right.
That's what they're going to do.
Kind of like what the pro-life people have been trying to do with Roe versus Wade. We've been trying to limit it more and more and more so that eventually it basically isn't effective. Yeah. And that's what they would do with the Second Amendment. They would limit it to the point where it basically isn't effective.
Death by 1,000 nicks.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'm not sure, and I'm a little paranoid about this subject, but I'm not. I honestly, what would they do if tomorrow the President of the United States, through executive order, said that's it, there's no more? I don't know if they'd get away with it again. Clinton got away with the assault weapon ban because we were still fairly naive about the whole liberals want to disarm people.
Sure.
You know, that naivete no longer exists.
Right. I think we're pretty much wise to that.
Yeah, and I just I really don't know how that would play out. It could be ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would. Raymond on Facebook said, "Nice rant. It cleared some things up."
Well, thank you, Raymond. I appreciate that. I do. And that's the magic tune. We're going to come back, and when we come back with more On Target Radio, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. Or do they? We're not 100% sure on that. We'll be back with that and more with more On Target Radio, and you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer from the AM560 Traffic Center.
Taking a look at the roads.
That's weird. George, it doesn't understand that if we're doing a topic, that's the calls we want to take.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody got stopped for going too slow in the loop. How does that relate to the assault weapon? I gotta find somebody.
We gotta find a way to link it.
I gotta find the call screen.
Well, he says he hears it fine, so it's probably going out.
Oh, I could hear you.
It could be.
I heard you just fine.
Yeah, I heard you just fine.
Maybe I've just got a bad connection.
But
Yeah,
you
we
can
were
hear
only down
everybody
for like
else
25
though.
seconds. It was really
So it's not that the volume is down. You can hear the rest of us.
Yeah.
Just not yourself.
Just not me.
That's weird. El Weirdo.
Oh, look. Somebody tried to fix that.
Nice job.
You can find another pair of headphones.
I got a pair right here.
My life, it's my money, it's my family, it's my business. I'll be responsible for everything.
Walsh.
Get the hell out of my life. 9.5 freaking seconds.
I love that guy. I truly do. I truly love that guy.
I hope he's on the radio forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually knew about it about 4 seconds before you said something.
Oh, really?
And then it,
This
What
one
happened?
too. Look. They jacked up that one too.
That's pretty weird.
that's,
They
that's
tried
like,
to glue it or
that's,
something.
yeah, that's that silicone caulk.
Yeah.
We're doing shrinks. I am.
You are.
Shrink,
Yeah.
smoking gun. Well, I'll try it. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I did lower the camera though too.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw you doing that.
But that didn't cause the blackout. The blackout was some weird.
Blackout was from excessive drinking.
Well, it is usually, yeah.
Call the following number for a free 10-minute incorporation guide from Incorporate.com. 1-800-900-2502. They don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make Incorporate. You can incorporate or form an LLC in just 10 minutes. That number again is 1-800-900-2502.
We read this on the air. Take that shit to the suburbs. Burn that shit down. We need our shit. We need our weed.
I think you should. I think you should just let George keep beeping you. He's on the phone with Peggy.
George, is your hand ready for the beeper? You've been doing your exercises?
He's on the phone with Peggy.
Yeah, he can't hear us.
Sylville Smith, huh?
Yeah.
Sylville Smith.
So,
Fine, upstanding gentleman.
yeah. Or not. With his extended Glock mag.
Yeah.
Like a punk. I can't. I don't remember the exact scenario, but my.
All right, you got just a few seconds, but
I changed headphones. I think that
We
might have
actually got
helped.
5 seconds.
These might be better than the others.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
If you're considering purchasing your first firearm or adding to your collection, here's your opportunity to save. In August, Schrank Smoke & Gun is offering a 10% discount on all store-owned used firearms, and that includes Schrank's selection of clearance guns. You've heard that Schrank's carries the largest selection of new, used, and consignment firearms in Lake County, including pistols, rifles, shotguns, hard-to-find calibers, collectibles, and older functioning hunting rifles. With hunting season is rapidly approaching, get your rifle inspected and cleaned by Schrank's qualified gunsmith. Purchase optics from Schrank's, and they'll mount and bore sight your new scope at no charge. And cigar lovers will really appreciate Schrank's humidors. To save 10% on used firearms, visit gun.org or call 847-662-4034. Schrank's Smoke & Gun in Waukegan, your family-owned gun store since 1964. That's 847-662-4034. Or online at gun.org. Milwaukee. The hero, the hero du jour, Sylville Smith. You notice that he's not being talked a lot about.
No.
Because it's very hard to talk about how it's racism when a black cop shoots a black kid who turns around, pulls a gun on the cop, points it at him. They're both black. They got video of the kid pointing the gun at the cop.
And actually, he wasn't no kid. He was 23 years old. So,
well,
according to journalism,
he's not
an adult.
a child. Yeah, he's not a child, right? But you know what? It turns out it really doesn't matter because they don't really care.
No,
these riots that were going on are just thuggery. I mean, it's anarchy. It has nothing to do with if Black lives actually matter to these people. Where are they when all these black people are killing black people?
Well, and they should come to the police officers' side as well. They should be like, hey, you know, he was in a tough situation. He had a tough decision he had to make.
He was a black cop.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You know, if Black Lives Matter, that includes him.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. They burned. Did you see the videos of? I mean, the copy that they had burned. Half of Milwaukee was on fire. That area.
This is what I was saying to you, is that I actually didn't see it covered that much on the news.
No.
And I don't get a daily newspaper. I mostly rely on television news for local news, and so I actually didn't really know that much about it until I was reading this the material that you gave me for show prep, and so I mean I heard about it after it had actually been going on for a couple of days, but I actually didn't really know that much about it.
You know, I've said this before. First of all, a lot of these agitators aren't from the area.
Sometimes,
they're brought in or bussed in or they parachute in, whatever the heck they do, and it's a good opportunity to get another TV set or whatever. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're doing this in a black neighborhood. Now, if Black Lives Matter, they're looting their own stores.
Right.
If Whitey's the bad guy, why are they doing it? Because that's where they are. They don't care.
Well, right, and that's what I said. Is the problem is that this type of violence is indiscriminate. They may well smash in the window of a black-owned business so they can steal something inside, or just to get the gratification of smashing the window, but they're actually detrimenting someone in their own community.
Yeah, it's their neighbors' businesses that are suffering. Which then, in turn, the entire community suffers. If you take out the only food store,
right?
Now what?
Right.
Yeah. What are you going to do about that? You know. Interesting thing.
Actually, the guy's sister picked right up on that.
Yes,
she said, "Go to the white neighborhood.
Go to the white neighborhood and don't burn down our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Go down burn their neighborhood."
Yeah.
Which it's twisted, but there's logic to that at least.
Yeah.
We mentioned this yesterday. We talked about it yesterday, I think, or the day before. Milwaukee, because you said I didn't know there was a big ghetto area in Milwaukee, and here they're citing it. Here, Milwaukee is the most segregated metropolitan area in the United States, with whites almost exclusively in the suburbs, and they get that chart that shows you.
Yeah, I did not know that. I actually went to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for my master's degree, and I didn't know that.
But that's not in downtown Milwaukee.
I don't know Milwaukee well enough to know like
It's out
parts.
sort of out in the outskirts, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah. Here and see, this is just classic. This is an alderman now, Milwaukee alderman.
Yeah.
Okay, Khalif Rainey responded to the weekend's violence. Now, this is an elected official in the town that has been sacked. Okay, and he says he threatened more riots if, quote, oppression, unemployment, and injustices weren't addressed. Rainey failed to explain what that had to do with an armed man with a lengthy criminal record aiming a gun at police officers, which is very tough to make that connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then white people, all they had to do was show up, and they're trying to pull them out of cars.
Right. Yeah.
And they were saying like, beat Whitey and all that kind of stuff.
They white, get them.
Yeah, they white, get them. This is like beyond my ken. It really, I mean,
yeah.
We know a bunch of black people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not, I was saying, I don't remember who I was saying this to. Yesterday, day before, I was saying to somebody, this is not black against white. It really is not. No. Because we have lots of black friends that, you know, they're like us. Mm-hmm. This is about ideology. This is about people who have common sense versus idiots. Mm-hmm. And it's not, they're trying to turn it into a racial thing. And it is turned into a racial thing because the black people are doing it. But those people are they're pawns and they don't realize it. They're pawns in the game. They're using them. And if somebody gets killed along the way, oh, well, so what? That's no big deal. Mm-hmm. You know, it's crazy. You're listening on Target Radio's AM560 The Answer. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. We are talking right now about Black Lives Matter, and Peggy is...
Yeah, I have something important to let you know. My church put up a sign for Black Lives Matter, and they basically are liberal. And I said, do you guys know what's happening in Milwaukee? I mean, it's very strange stuff going on, because, like, my church is Mennonite. They're pacifists. They wouldn't hurt a puppy, okay? And, like, all of a sudden there's this stuff coming out about these people saying all this weird stuff about, you know, kill this person, kill that person.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's real bizarre stuff, and it's like, is it possible for a group to get taken over by another group?
Sure. Happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens.
I told him, I said, I think something's happening you're not aware of. I said, I know you guys are peaceful, but there's some people in this group that are definitely not peaceful.
Well, yeah, that's kind of over the top. I would agree, Peggy.
Well, you know, I mean, what do I say? You know, I mean, these are my people. You know, they're Christian just like I am. Their politics, I think, is a little over the wall. But, I mean, I'm devoted to these people. They're my family. You know
Peggy, I'm curious. Tell me, if it's a Mennonite community, because we only got about 30 seconds, so what is the presidential candidate of choice then? Are they looking at Hillary?
I think they're looking at God.
Well, but he's not running, okay?
It's like, have you seen what those two candidates are like? I don't know. I think they're looking at Hillary, but they don't like her.
Well, because you know what? Listen, and we're almost out of time. But here's the thing: it would seem to me, and I'm not all that familiar with Mennonites, but it seems to me that most of the tenets of progressive liberalism would go against what Mennonites believe.
Yeah, Mennonites are one of the more conservative.
Yeah, exactly.
Not evangelical, but Protestant denominations. Very, very conservative. They're like right before Amish.
Right.
So yeah, they would be. My theory is, for Peggy, my theory is that they are trying to be supportive of the Black Lives Matter group because they don't understand what they're really about, and they have white guilt.
Well, that may be.
They're trying to assuage their white guilt. That's my theory.
You're right about Mennonites. They're like one step.
They're very conservative.
Above Quakers. They can use telephones, but
and they drive cars.
And they drive cars.
And they have refrigerators.
Yeah. A quick tip to people who are calling in. I mean, we're dealing with topics. So if we're dealing with Black Lives Matter and you call in about flying balloons, you're not going to get on the air. we're doing our job here, right? We're doing our job. We're going to be back. We'll be back with more on Target Radio after a few messages. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Chicago's top cop. We'll not just mention the word gang. All that more on Target Radio. Listening to AM560, The Answer.
It's back. The biggest conservative event in the Midwest returns this October. It's Freedom Summit Chicago 2016, October 29th in Itasca, featuring Alan West, Michelle Malkin, Mike Gallagher, Stephen Moore, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Joe Walsh, and many more. Tickets start at just $29. Order your tickets today at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's Freedom Summit.
Stop for driving the speed limit sees as an indication of backward logic.
Yes, because it's exactly what you were talking about, Dave. Everybody doing the wrong thing, he's out of the ordinary because he's not doing the wrong thing and he's the one singled out.
That's not what that says. That says he was stopped for driving the speed limit.
I made attempts to explain that call to
But
you.
what does that have to do with Cook County versus Wilson?
Right. We started with...
No, you guys
Wilson.
tangented at the end of that segment. He called on basically what you were talking about, which I can't remember the specific of it, but you were saying something about how, when you were talking about how difficult it would be to get rid of handguns. When you were talking about millions, or whatever the number you said, millions
and that has
and millions
to do
and
with
millions.
being stopped for speeding in what way?
You said it would be one thing if it was only 20 people with handguns. Well, when it's 20 people doing the speed limit, he seems to be... It's fine. I can let him go if you want. But when you come out and you say stuff like,
take the hook out
be
of
on
his mouth.
profit.
Yes, it's not. It doesn't.
He was on topic.
If he wants to wait, that almost would go with California. With the police state and...
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Thinly, but perhaps.
He's a well-spoken guy.
I think you should
call.
take him in the next segment because...
All right. Well, the next segment is.
I don't
We can
think
swap them.
Well, you can take him. You can take him right away and then move into it.
I don't think this topic is a whole segment.
Which one is that?
He won't say gang.
Well, it was sort of to flow with Black Lives Matter and violence.
Okay.
And nothing else to do.
The logic in my head was, and maybe I put this across like George would, but the logic in my head is we're talking about street gang violence, and our guy, I forget the words he used to refer to him, but I read it to you because it's previous contact with the law. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got a splinter in my toe.
These people,
Gotcha.
they can't say.
What do you mean these people?
They can't say Islamic terrorists. They don't want to talk about gangs.
Liberals.
Well, Islamic terrorists aren't Islamic, so.
Or anything now.
Well, you heard about this guy's Gitmo detainee. He was arrested in Qatar, and he's been basically ISIS's top recruiter for the last 2 years.
Cool.
He was cut from Gitmo.
He was cut from Gitmo in 2010.
Does he get a finder's fee or?
Yeah, there's gotta be.
Well, I'm thinking you get the deluxe suite as a as a return visitor to Gitmo.
That's true, and you get to live.
Yeah, you get the deluxe seat. It's the one with the ocean view.
Have
Through
you
the
seen the
chain link.
video of they were gonna execute 3 hostages? Have you seen this?
And the SEALs.
No, and the last hostage managed to get his hands unbound, and when the guy came close to him, he grabbed his AK and killed everybody.
Nice.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I want that video.
Yeah. You don't see him killing him, you hear him.
I saw the
because
one.
one of the first people was the cameraman, apparently,
Right.
and the camera drops down, you're just seeing like sand, but you're hearing him yelling, yeah.
I saw one, it was about a year, maybe a little over a year ago, maybe it was last
You always
spring.
wonder about that because they never struggle.
Well, you know what I read? You know why? Because what they were telling people, they were telling us, we're not doing. We're
This
just
is
doing
gonna be
this for the
special
camera.
effects.
This is like a practice thing. We're not really going to do anything to you.
We're making this
they just
video
kinda
for
go out
propaganda.
there.
Yeah, but then they really
Especially the good Muslims,
Yeah,
the fellow
right,
Muslim.
yeah.
We're not going to kill a fellow Muslim.
Yeah.
This is all special effects, and then they would cut it.
then they would cut it in half.
No, I did see one. I think for about a little less than a year and a half ago. I think there was.
You cut somebody's head off?
No, there was 2 guys, and they were on their knees. They were blindfolded in the middle of the desert.
Some of them not really.
And the guy comes over and he's
able to
he's
mention
yelling at something.
some of
I
the
think it might
rants
have been a
were a little
camera.
interesting on
It's
there,
another guy with a camera, and they get some guys with like an
started
M60 mount on the back.
monitoring them so I could signal you to look at them.
And Delta snipers took out the 2 guys.
Larry was complaining that it got really blurry.
I think that was right before it went dark.
Larry was complaining it got boring?
No, blurry, the video, when we had the video issue. But it's fine, though.
Why do we keep dropping off?
I think it's the Wi-Fi.
But that's what I said.
But it only happened for like 45 seconds.
If the signal isn't strong, it'll go to low resolution.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
probably
it
what it did.
keep
And then it went.
broadcasting.
And then it went completely.
That's what I told him. But he was complaining.
But
he
then
said,
it came back fine.
I was watching before the start of the show when you were talking about my floor. And all of a sudden it just went blurry.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing
Yep.
you're joining it, right?
Yep, it's right now.
He said they know they don't dare come to White
1-800-94179.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect
This
your
segment
life.
is brought to you by the Will County Grassroots Division of the Illinois State Rifle Association. Join like-minded friends supporting the right to keep and bear arms in Illinois at 7 p.m. on the third Wednesday of the month at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois.
You know, Black Lives Matter. There's a general thing going on, for lack of a better term, this thugism thing. And I think a lot of this is they're letting them get away with it. I don't understand. If you have a whole bunch of people out there committing arson, which is a forcible felony, they're burning stores, why don't you just hose them down? The problem right now is there are no consequences for doing it.
Right.
They're just giving them a pass. They're letting them get away with it.
Like in Baltimore, the mayor or whatever was like, we need to give them space to
Exactly.
destroy stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said. We're giving them space. Why are we giving them space? How about we give them a small cubicle of space?
How about we give them handcuffs and a jail cell?
Look, our superintendent of police in Chicago, Johnson, they threw McCarthy under the bus. And I was never a big fan of his, but they threw him under the bus on that one.
Sure.
Fair is fair.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and you've said that, it's a political job. He didn't take that job thinking this is going to be it for me. This is going to just make my career. I'm just going to, do my last 20 years and it's going to be great. I mean, come on. It's a political job. At some point you could be thrown under the bus.
I actually tried to contact John Koss did an article on him this week. And so I sent an email to John and said, you got a contact for him? I had him on the show. But John doesn't. We don't do lunch. He's
You're not friends.
No, he's become he's a big shot.
He's distant.
Now. Yeah, he's a big shot. But Johnson, look, this past weekend, 52 people were shot. 52 people. This year in Chicago, 2,600 people already have been shot. Last year, for the entire year, was 2,988. When you do 52 in a weekend, we're going to beat last year. We'll break 3,000.
Yeah, we're on pace to far outweigh. I like how Robert Farrago calls them ballistically perforated.
Yes, a little levity never hurt. But here's
that's a euphemism if ever I've heard one.
That's right. Here is what our superintendent of police says. He says, year to date, 2016, nearly 85% of our shooting victims, both fatal and non-fatal shootings, have had prior contact with the police. They're gangbangers.
Another euphemism. Yes.
Yeah, they're gangbangers. This is the author of this article, Robert Farrago. Robert Farrago goes, what, speeding tickets? I don't think so. Hello? Why don't they just say it? They're gangbangers. They're gangbangers. Right. Paul McKinley has said, you want to solve the problems down there?
Right.
It's going to take a couple of generations, but you got to start by there's people you're going to have to take out, lock them up, and never let them out again. And he's right. He lives there. He basically gets it.
Yeah, I mean, he has a qualified opinion.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's where he came from. So, he has intimate knowledge of that particular society, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be a popular position, but to some degree, most of these people are sociopaths. We know a thing or two about sociopaths, and you can't necessarily reform a sociopath. You can try, but a lot of times, there's too much environment in their formative years, and they can't be.
You're not going to change.
They can't
that.
be rehabbed.
Yeah, you're not going to change that. And he goes on and he says, we've identified that a small segment of individuals behind this violence, which is fundamentally true. If you think about it, in the overall population of the city of Chicago, there's a lot of gangbangers, but it's not. They're very isolated. They're in very specific areas. They know who they are. They know where they are. Mm-hmm. You ask any cop, street cop, and he knows who the bad guys are.
Right.
And so, he's been talking about we have more evidence. We're going to have more prosecutions. Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. But the gang stuff in Chicago it's worse than the country.
Right.
Totally out of control.
Right.
I don't know what to say. Beyond that, Chicago, how long has it been Democratic?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't even know.
More than my lifetime.
How long, George?
Something around 70 years.
70 years, okay. Look at Detroit. You look at the cities that have the highest crime rates, the two things they have in common, they don't like guns, and they've been under Democratic control. And blacks continue to vote for them. That's the part that just blows me away. And when you look at the black culture, most of what the Democratic Party stands for goes completely against what they believe.
Yeah.
Abortion, all that. It goes completely against what they believe.
Yeah, in the churches, they're not preaching the right things.
Yeah. All right, we're going to be back with more on Target Radio. When we come back, California takes another step towards totalitarian government. All that and more with On Target Radio. And you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer from the AM560 Traffic Center.
Taking a look at traffic.
But I went online. There's somebody with the name that he uses that's not him. So do we know, was he going to be there more than that one night?
We could probably look on the restaurant's website.
Oh, I didn't think. Look, see if you check the restaurant. I looked to see if he had.
I got a good comment on Facebook. This guy says, "This is no longer news. Let's talk about the way the politicians and media adore the crises. Societal order doesn't create crises. They want crises because that gives the politicians leeway to do extra constitutional things." Matt Vaccarello.
Oh, Vaccarello. Bring it up. We're not coming back with anything, so why don't you do that?
Okay.
And then,
all right, we told George he will be the first thing when the segment starts.
That was a shame you said that. You should bring it back in with a comment on Facebook first.
Well, comment and then we'll go to George. George won't know.
What, are you expanding on that Facebook comment afterward?
No, not really.
Okay, I was gonna say because you can use it to segue out of the call.
Yeah.
If you're staying with that. I should create some accounts and make some Facebook comments on the On Target Radio page.
We're not Amy and Dan.
Yeah, you don't have a text line.
No, we just
you don't have a text line that no one texts.
Pull out of our ass.
Did nobody text? Do they have a text line though?
Joe Walsh gets traffic, like genuine traffic.
Wow.
Amy and Dan,
not so much.
He has what?
Joe Walsh generates a lot of traffic on the text line.
He does, yeah.
On the text line, but
he's a lightning rod.
Not the rest of them.
You're bringing it in.
He's also in a few different markets. He's also in a few different markets, which they are. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of people texting from Eureka.
Elsewhere, from Eureka.
Los Los?
What happened?
What did you say?
I don't know. He was saying Eureka, and I was saying Eureka. I just like saying Eureka.
Okay, fine.
I don't know what George was saying half the time. He's just.
Did you see how many numbers we have?
No.
I knew that, George.
We're up there.
He's not listed again on their website, but they only have September on here.
So he's not playing again, that we know. No. Well, what does he call himself, Harry? What?
Harry Harrison.
The Arthritis Foundation, and we're smack dab in the middle of our dance-a-thon to fight arthritis. 20 seconds. Me? 20 seconds. 10 hours straight, baby, but I'm a boogie machine.
See, movement is just one of the ways to help fight osteoarthritis pain. Another is weight loss. You get rid of just 1 pound. That's 4 pounds of pressure off each knee. For more information on managing pain, visit fightarthritispain.org. Then meet me on the dance floor. This message brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Did get a good comment on Facebook from Matt. He says, "This is no longer news. Let's talk about the way the politicians and media adore the crises. Societal order doesn't create crises. They want crises because that gives the politicians leeway to do extra constitutional things."
Well, if you want crises, the best way to have crises is to have conflict. And California is moving closer to totalitarian government. George in the West Loop got a little totalitarian government, didn't you, George?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, that's it.
You're on the air.
Am I on the air?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Hello?
You are, George. Hi, we could...
Okay, I'm sorry. Listen, listen to me very carefully. My father spent 4.5 years in the Philippines in World War II. I did 18 months in Vietnam. My kid served in Iraq and Iran. I got stopped the other day by a Hispanic state trooper. He told me I was going too slow.
What were you on?
I was on the Nairobi 500, the Dan Ryan.
Ah, okay. Well, and they do have minimum speed.
So now here's the deal. What I said to him, I says, probable cause isn't me doing the speed limit and everybody else speeding, officer. And he kind of laughed and he said, it didn't even occur to me that that's what was going on. But that's an allegory for what's going on in the world. Is that aberrant behavior is normal, and normal behavior is aberrant.
I hate to say this, but you know what? You're right.
True.
It is true.
That's exactly what's going on in our world.
You know what? I'm going to tell you this right now, George. We're keeping that line. You're going to hear that line rear its head again in the future, because that's actually a pretty pithy line. But he's dead right. He's dead right. It's everything that I grew up, that my parents and everybody in school, my teachers, pounded into us. Mm-hmm. Every one of those things just about is now wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've said many times that a lot of the problems that we're seeing in the last 2.5 or so years stem from parents not teaching their children that they have to respect authority figures.
Exactly.
The teachers in the schools have known this for some time and have been saying for decades, we don't get any respect. The kids don't respect us. They don't do what we tell them to do. You can't run a school that way, and you can't run a society that way by extension. If you don't do what a police officer tells you to do, if you don't drop the knife, if you don't stop when they tell you to stop, you're going to get shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not. I still think one of the funniest videos I've ever seen, but is dead on true, is the one how not to get
how not to get your butt kicked by the police.
By the police, yeah. And it's what's his name?
It's Chris Rock.
Rock.
If you go on our Facebook page, our On Target Radio Facebook page, I posted it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it is hysterically funny, but it's really true. Which, and coming from a black man, makes it even better.
It has more credence coming from a black man himself.
California, you talk about agitating and it gets you news and it does the agenda thing. Now, California has a law that says if somebody videotapes a crime, if you play it, if the press picks it up or you play it, it's actually against the law. It's not against the law, apparently, to be committing the crime. It's against the law to tape it and prove that the crime is being committed.
It's called Bill 1671. It specifies that undercover videos that secretly record healthcare providers that is specifically illegal.
Well,
it doesn't.
You know what it was from.
Well, of course I do. It was the Planned Parenthood
Exactly.
Secret undercover videos. But could they be more blatant? Could they be
It would
more
be hard.
completely unvarnished in their discrimination.
Well, see, what you're doing is you're saying, could you be more stupid? And they will try to rise to the occasion.
Right. They think it's a challenge.
Yeah. But
the interesting thing is what I said to you is I can't believe we're on the same side as the ACLU again.
Again, that's right.
This is the second time that I can remember.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you're right. This particular one is talking about health care. But here's the thing. Now you have a precedent. If you can say you can't talk about health care, well, okay, then what's next? You can't talk about something else.
And that's what the ACLU said. They said that the same rationale for punishing communications of some preferred professions or industries could as easily be applied to other communications, such as law enforcement, animal testing labs, gun makers, lethal injection drug producers, the petroleum industry, and religious sects.
Exactly. California, the best thing that's happened to California is San Andreas Fault. Someday it will be its own island somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I just...
It would be nice if it were progressing more quickly.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is if you go towards the northern end of California, except for San Francisco, of course, it's pretty conservative. I've got a very good friend of mine who lives up in, I think it's called Redland Hills or something. Okay. John Lowry, who's a Korean-era fighter pilot and, arch conservative kind of guy. But Southern California, unbelievable. And it's, it's populated by extremely wealthy people who surround themselves with people who tell them they're God.
Right.
And they've come to believe it.
This article is from InfoWars, and he concludes by saying, on the other hand, if state government wants to secretly record a citizen and use that recording to issue a criminal charge against him, it's perfectly free to do so.
Well, of course, naturally. All right. Well, we're going to be back after a few messages and wrap the whole thing up, and we'll do Gretchen's Actions items. Been an interesting show. Yeah?
Yes,
I think so. All right, we'll be back with more on Target Radio, and you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
I thought his comment fit with the California stuff. Of how this government is ass backwards.
But that applies to any government in the entire United States.
The thing about what George said, though, they thought he was driving too slow because he's driving slower than everybody else.
There's a minimum speed limit on it.
Well, there's that, and also, I don't know about you, but they taught us that drunk drivers often drive slow.
Deliberate.
Well,
and they hug lines.
It slows your senses down, so you feel like you're going faster than you actually are when you're intoxicated. So you look for slow drivers because they.
George is saying something.
Turn the monitor up. Everybody's driving 75 like me. All of that, and you're going 55.
Oh yeah, no question.
But you're still doing the legal limit.
Yes, I understand, but that shouldn't be that way.
No, I know.
I agree with
you.
you.
In much of Europe, it's not. I was driving on the Autostrasse. I was doing like about 100, and they're blowing my doors off.
Still, yep.
Yeah, they were blowing my doors off. And I stopped at a rest area, and there was a cop there. And he spoke English. And I said, am I reading my speedometer wrong or something? And he started to laugh. And he goes, if they're not hurting anybody, we let them go.
Yeah, the only people who get pulled out over on the Autobahn is people who change lanes
yeah, they weave.
Right. Going fast.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a truck driver and you pull out in front of somebody going more than 30 miles over the speed limit or over your speed, you're given a ticket. Mm-hmm. That's excellent. I wish they would give every truck driver pulled out in front of me a ticket.
Well, there's that.
23 seconds.
And you got a long run, right? So
Quite a bit,
we'll just do you right away. We're gonna do you, Fritz.
Batteries for life. For free information, call now. 1-800-400-3906. That's 1-800-400-3906. 1-800-400-3906.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
And Gretchen's got a whole bunch of stuff tonight, so we're going to get right to it.
Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
You have 3 opportunities to meet On Target Radio in September. Get your tickets for the annual Zombie Shoot at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. The Zombie Shoot is Saturday, September 10th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Discount ticket sales have been extended until August 15th. Oh, sorry, that's past. If you're for your admission of $80, I missed that line. You can test your skills at IDPA, Practical Rifle, Precision Practical Rifle, 2-gun, and Tactical 3-gun nation-style stages. ASC brings all of this together in one event to let new and novice shooters try their hands at action shooting sports, to let pros try for bragging rights, and to have a day of fun, family, and camaraderie, all in the name of protecting the world from the undead. The Zombie Shoot is held at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois. Get your tickets online at thezombieshoot.aurorasc.org/home/register, or just use the link on our Facebook page. Join On Target Radio at the fundraiser for the ISRA, hosted by Constitutional Rights, on Thursday, September 15th at Cimino's Pizza in Joliet from 7 to 10 p.m. For a donation of $35, you get pasta, beer, soft drinks, and a gun auction, all to benefit the Illinois State Rifle Association. For more information, visit the link on our Facebook page. Meet On Target Radio at the Friends of NRA banquet on Saturday, September 17th at Gaslight Manor in Aurora. For tickets, go to friendsofnra.org and click on Events. The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman. Saturday, August 27th, Long Range Rifle, taught by Ed Janka. Also, Saturday, August 27th, Tactical Pistol 1 and 2, taught by David. Saturday and Sunday, September 3rd and 4th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry, as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. Saturday, September 3rd, Introduction to Shotgun Shooting, taught by Pat and Nancy Donaldson. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on Register.
It occurs to me that maybe we should have my team run a zombie shoot on.
Oh, you mean like videotape us shooting at the zombie shoot?
No, have them on the show. Talk about what
yeah.
zombie shoot is.
Yeah, you definitely should.
Yeah, I'll run that by him. It's a really good group. Not that past groups haven't done a good job. They have. But this group has come up with some pretty creative stuff. Todd Vandermeide, who a lot of people know who Todd is because he's the NRA's lobbyist here in Illinois. He's a member of our club, and he's very active in 3-gun and that sort of thing. And he came up to me and he said, he had some observations about last year's zombie shoot. And I said, what are they? And they were really good observations.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of like taken over, which he's been doing a good job, but all of them, Bill and Allison and Jim Manning and everybody, we've just got a really, really good team. And it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a really, really good year.
Yeah, should have them on as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think I'll bring that up to them. And some of them are camera hogs to begin with, so they probably want to be.
They'd probably like it.
Yeah, but so because we keep talking about it, and I think a lot of people are going, "What the heck is a zombie shoot?" Well,
right. And there's people like certain people I'm related to who are zombies. Bleh.
Yeah.
They think the whole thing is silly.
It's a themed excuse to go and shoot, is what it is.
Basically.
Yeah. That's it. So anyway. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to On Target Radio, and be sure to come next week when we'll be covering more red meat issues that affect your life.
We'd also like to thank George Hoffman on the board, Jim Ekstrand, our video producer, and our sponsors, the Will County Grassroots Division of the ISRA, Schrank Smoking Gun, the Illinois State Rifle Association, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
And as always, thanks, Mike, for making it all happen.